So let me just introduce everybody. We've got Gina Schneider, my wife, and me, Stephen Schneider. And then we've got Ron Murphy, Ron Murphy, investigator extraordinaire. And then we've got Colin, who at one time was one of the youngest investigators, but I think he's been superseded, but now. So what I wanted to do is just go around, let everyone introduce themselves and a little bit about your part of the group's expertise and why you want to do this. Ron, you want to start? You're like our leader.
Hey, well, no, this is not going to be good then if I start out as your leader. Let's just put it this way.
We'll guide you.
This won't go very far. So I have been interested in the paranormal since I've been a kid. My mother would listen to the radio. Stan Gordon was on the radio about once a week from where I live outside of Pittsburgh. I'm in Western Pennsylvania. So she would listen to him talk about, the weekly or the monthly Bigfoot UFO reports.
Oh.
And then we would go out the next day trying to find the locations and see if we could find anything. So I was about, 5 years old when we were doing this kind of stuff. So it was a great time to be a kid. We would go to the library and we would get actual books on cryptozoology. And I went to a Catholic school, and it was very, very odd because this was one of the most well-stocked libraries on the paranormal that I've ever seen, even to this very day. I'm convinced that one of the nuns must have been a paranormal investigator. Absolutely had to have happened that way. But, this was a great time to be alive because this was the time for In Search Of, this was the time for That's Incredible. And all these great, the Legend of Boggy Creek had come out not too much before this, or around the same time, as a matter of fact. So this was a great time to be a kid. And, it taught me to look at things with, eyes wide open, and there's more things out there than meet the eye. And it was really, really cool growing up that time. And then I left, elementary school, and then I segued into high school. And what I found, and look, guys, I almost impossible to believe. I don't know what that was. I think that we might have had some sort of poltergeist in it. But you might find this impossible to believe. But whenever I went into high school, women back in the late 80s did not find guys that are interested in Bigfoot very attractive. I don't understand exactly what was going on. So although it was there, my research kind of waned a little bit, okay? And then I went into college, and I remember my very first year of college, I took Anthropology 101, and we were reading out of a book, a legitimate book that I paid like $70 for, and this wasn't like one of those vanity press type of things. This was a real book, and I opened it up, and it talked about the possibility of the Gigantopithecus existing into historical times, and that possibly was the impetus for the behind abominable snowmen. And I thought this was a great thing, because it gave me a little bit of academic backing into what I really had so been enlivened with in my youth. So it allowed me to look at the world of the paranormal, and especially cryptozoology, from a very different perspective. I could now look at it and say, this is part of research. And that's what I continue to do to this very day. I have a master's degree in history as well. And I look at the world of the cryptozoological from the point of archetypes. Why we have these archetypes, what was the development of these things, and why we need them to exist into this very day and age. I hope that these things are flesh and blood. I hope that they exist. But it really doesn't make any difference to me whether they are existing or they're just part of our gray matter within our brain. It's very interesting to investigate, even from a sociological and psychological perspective on this stuff as well. So that's kind of like the way I approach the world of the paranormal, especially whenever it goes into cryptozoology. And so as I delve deeper and I do investigation, I look from a very historical point of view, and I have to look into the culture of that area for these sightings as well too, because nothing exists in a vacuum. All of it, has an antecedent and, has a precedent and everything else. So I try to look at it in the nature of the sighting itself. So I try to take all those things into account. So I would say that I was an historian, a folklorist, and then a cryptozoologist at the very, very tail end.
So that's right there, the example of why you're the speaker. That was, I mean, that was like, wow, I'm going to follow up with like, well, I really like this stuff. That was great.
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? I think that we're all kind of in the same boat, right? I mean, we all are looking at things. We're all intelligent people. We're not here wearing our overalls with nothing else underneath them, except maybe Colin is because he's
Yeah.
on camera.
Yeah, we haven't decided what picture.
Yeah,
he's
we don't
gonna
know
be.
what Colin's doing there, but we're all looking at this because there's so many unanswered questions in this world that we live in. And I think that this makes us even more human when we look at the world of the paranormal and we can't answer what is going on there. You know, we have Colin, who's a skeptic. He'll be talking in a little bit. We need skeptics and we need believers, and we have to kind of meet in the middle someplace and ascertain what exactly is going on here.
Right. Agreed. And that's what we each have our thing we're
Yep.
bringing to this whole thing. And you've got a lot of years of investigation and research. I got to ask though, how almost weird was it to listen to Stan on the radio for years and then meet the man? And he's such a great guy.
He's such a great guy. I remember I met him whenever I was still quite young. I think that I was probably still in grade school, you know, and it was like, you know, meeting a legend because he was a media figure, you know, and at that time, not every, you know, there was no YouTube or anything. So like either on television or he was on the radio, and there was always that air of celebrity to him. And I remember meeting him the first time and then, you know, going on to the future and then speaking in the same venues that he is speaking in. But you have to understand, okay, I am 52 years old. I have been following him since I've been a child, and he still looks the same. I do have a theory, and I think that it has to do with his investigation of UFOs. I think the radiation from these landings has somehow penetrated him. It has altered his DNA, and now he will be forever young.
Wow.
Have you ever told him that? I think you get a kick out of it.
Yeah, I'm also going to carry a mirror around as well too, because I also have maybe a vampire.
Well, we were going to do a vampire investigation, so
yes,
that'll give us practice.
It will give us. We'll take Stan along with us.
Right. Well, you know, actually, we should probably reach out to Stan and get him on for an interview and talk to him and pick his brain a little bit, tell about what he did back in the 60s. You know, we've heard that story, but other people haven't. And that would probably be a great first interview. And I know he's been homebound for the last year. So it'd be great to hear how he's been handling that with COVID. And I know there's still reports coming in. So we should reach out to him, and maybe in a couple of weeks we could talk to him.
I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. Yeah. He's the grandfather of the paranormal, especially not only in Western Pennsylvania, but he is the father in Western Pennsylvania. But if you look at anybody, even Nick Redfern refers to him in the shows that he does as well, even though when Stan doesn't appear on them. Without Stan Gordon and everything that he has done in his research, what we have right now would not exist. It would be a far different landscape that we would be dealing with.
Yeah. And Colin and I ran into him almost completely by accident because he knows some other people that we were at their house for a weekend. And it was like, oh, Colin, we should go because there's going to be a supernatural paranormal guy talking. And Colin's like, oh, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know. And it was Stan, and he was so good talking with Colin. And of course, Colin's like, please go to the ATM and get as much money as you can. I want all of his books.
Yes.
That was our intro.
Yeah. He's a good guy. He's a kind guy. He's genuine. And I think that would be a great idea. I would want to talk to him.
Yeah, we'll reach out to him. Stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gina, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you for everybody listening. Yay.
Hi. So where I come into play with all of this is that ever since I was little, I mean, when I was younger, I didn't realize that everybody else didn't just see and hear all the things that I did. I just assumed it was normal. But then I started to realize as I got a little bit older that not everybody had experiences or that they, you know, seen the things that I did. So I had to keep it to myself because, you know, what are you talking about? That's weird. But I grew up so both of my great grandmothers, as I got older, I realized a lot of what they did in the house was steeped in superstition. I couldn't figure out, sometimes I would watch my one grandmother and she would speak in Finnish. And I didn't realize basically what she was doing was cleansing the house of negativity. But again, I thought it was normal. I thought everybody's grandparents did that to the house. I thought, you know, it was normal to walk around with the sage stick in your hand and chant in a different language. It just was normal because that's how I grew up. You know, and then I'll have to come up with the Finnish word that my grandmother used. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it was much like in The Shining, where they would have the shine. I didn't actually see specific dead people as a kid, but I would know things. Like my brother would come downstairs to go into the refrigerator, and he'd be rummaging around, and I'd tell him it's to the back left on the second shelf. And he'd pull it out of the refrigerator, and then he'd turn around and look at me like, how did you know I was looking for that? Again, I just thought that stuff was normal. I thought everybody did that. But again, as I got older, so then I kind of shifted into being a girl. I know that's crazy talk, right? I thought, okay, boys are cute, and they would think, you know, this girl was weird. She's talking about like seeing colors around me and dead people. And so I started to suppress that until I was 16, and I met a couple of friends who we started having experiences together. That particular experience, I probably won't talk about out loud because it involves them, and I wouldn't want to cause them any problems by talking about the experience we had. So this is the one specific experience I'll tell about now, which is really like catapulted me into really wanting to know what's out there. My dad got very sick when I was 16 years old. He was not going to make it. As fast as they were pumping blood in him, it was coming out of everywhere. Everybody was devastated. They were like, you say your goodbyes, he's going to go. So I go down a hallway and I come across this doctor who was wearing blue scrubs, really blue eyes, black hair, a little bit of a beard and mustache. And he said, Gina, come here. So I walked over to him. He goes, sit down and talk to me for a minute. And I said, okay. He's like, what's going on? I said, my dad's not going to make it. And he said, no, that's not true. I'm telling you right now, your father's going to be fine. And I don't know what made me feel like I could believe him. I mean, I assumed he was a doctor, but that's the way this person made me feel. I felt very calm and like, okay, my dad's going to be fine. So there I go back to the waiting room. I'm like my 16-year-old self, you know, like a valley girl, and snapping gum in my mouth and telling everybody, don't worry about it. The doctor down the hallway with the blue eyes and black hair told me dad's going to be okay. Everybody else is rushing around, you know, codes going off and that saying, you know, Gina might need some medication because, you know,
they still
he's
say
definitely not going to make it. And probably within 3 hours of talking to that guy down the hallway, my father started to turn around. And everybody was like, who did you talk to? And again, I started to go look for him. He had dark hair. He had really blue eyes. He's wearing light blue scrubs. And I described this gentleman to the nurses, to the other doctors, to my mom, my grandmother. They said, nobody works in this unit that looks like that at all. But 100% knew that my dad was going to make it. And I was like, this is weird. Now, I don't know to this day, you know, some people I tell the story to said he was an angel. Somebody said maybe he was a relative from the past, you know, that came to calm me down to, you know, tell the rest of my family. But I actually got some of that too. Is like, why did they come to you? Why did they tell you? And I just think that I've always been more opened to that type of stuff. That's why it comes at me. And that's why the things that happens to me happens. So that catapulted me into being this person of, you know, there's something more out there, whether it's ghosts, whether it's angels, people coming from other dimensions. I don't know, a multiverse, there's another Earth and we're hitting each other too close. And then this Earth, my dad was okay. So that guy from that Earth is telling me your dad's going to be fine because he survived in that one, that type of stuff. There's just, for me personally, there's too much out there. And I'm just one small person in this giant magnitude of life that I live. So why would I, you know, think so much of myself and be so full of myself that there isn't something more? Again, whether it's ghosts, reincarnation, aliens, Bigfoot. There's always something more. So.
And that's not your only story.
No,
coming
not at
up,
all.
we're going to have a whole episode or two talking about and dissecting a little bit of some of your stories.
Well, that is an incredible story. However, I mean, that is one of those things that really would change your life and your perspective on nearly everything, you know? Now, let me ask you a real quick question there, Gina. So at the time that it was going on, did you get any particular feeling from this person? I mean, did anything wash over you? Did they say it was going to be okay? Was it something systemic, or was just his words, or did something more touch you than that?
It felt, I was obviously a mess. You know, my dad was dying, actively dying. And it was the whole entire scene of it was horrific. Tubes, blood, people racing around trying to, you know, stop him from dying, and being ushered out of the room and watching this. I was hysterical. Honestly, too, on a side note, my father and I really didn't get along very well at that time. So it was like worse for me, because I was like, you know, oh my God, he's going to die. And we have this horrible relationship. So that when this gentleman, I came across him, I got a very big, like, everything very peaceful, very calm. I almost felt like maybe he was projecting it onto me, that feeling like, you know, and I did. I sat down, I felt very relaxed, giddy, you know. I even thought to myself, being a 16-year-old girl, wow, look at those blue eyes, you know, that type of thing. Because this person made me feel like everything was just going to be okay.
Now, did your relationship with your father then, were you able to mend it then before he passed away? See, so it did happen for a reason.
Well, yeah. No, as a matter of fact, that's what this person who came to me said, not to worry, that my father was going to be okay. And my dad did. He pulled out of it. Like he recovered, and it took him a while, and he stayed in the hospital about a month, but literally he flatlined a couple of times right in front of our eyes. And my dad pulled out of it. I mean, he completely turned his life around, his health, how he acted towards his family, everything in general. My dad became a completely different person.
Right. No, I don't know much about, because, you know, I've known Stephen, and I've known Colin for years, and I've known you for a while as well too. But I never get into religious backgrounds. Are you somebody of a particular established faith, or would you call yourself spiritual, or how do you describe yourself?
Well, I feel like, and that's actually funny that you're asking this, because I'm the type of person, like, from the time I was little, people always told me I was weird. You know, I was either weird, I was always outside the box, or that when I would come into the room, it was like a bright light followed me. So I was born and raised in a Roman Catholic family, but I was always the one getting in trouble, always, because I would raise my hand and say, well, that doesn't seem right. Why would God do that to us? And I would get in trouble, you know. And the nuns, especially Sister Teresa, she would send me to the office. You need to go talk to Sister Donnelly. You are being out of order. Why? I'm asking a question. You know, what's wrong with my question? And I remember the time when I finally heard that they kicked Lucifer out of heaven. I was like practically cheering. I'm like, yes. And they were like, oh, that's blasphemy. You know, go say 6 Hail Marys and 4 Our Fathers and do the rosary. Well, how can you even side with that? All he was doing was asking a question. All he was doing was questioning what God was doing. He wasn't trying to be, in my opinion, the biggest jerk in heaven. He just wanted to know, are you doing it that way when we can do it this way? So I questioned everything about the Catholic faith, everything. And it always got me in trouble.
Yes,
so, and then, which we can talk about more years later as an adult, the Catholic religion really was not so nice to me or my oldest son. And I just finally that's it, I'm done. I went on the path of very spiritual, you know, feel the earth in my feet type of thing. I believe there is a higher power. I just wouldn't necessarily say it's one specific, this God that everybody's referred to. You know what I mean?
Well, you wouldn't say that it was one specific God, but you also have no problem with other people that says that it would, right? You're just a tolerant person. You would allow anybody to, and that's the way I think. Look, the world would be a much better place if everybody was that tolerant. Look, you believe what you want to believe. I'm not going to step on your toes.
Yes.
All going to get us to eventually the same place, right? I feel that wholeheartedly. that no matter what religious path you follow, even if you do not follow a particular faith, at the end of the day, we all come to that ultimate universal God frequency or what have you. You know what I mean? We all tuned in.
100%. My biggest philosophy is like, you know what? Do what makes you happy. Do what you believe in. As long as it's not going to hurt somebody else,
right.
bring physical harm to them, you know. And again, I'm just one small person in such a big universe, you know. Who's to say? There could be gods and goddesses. There could be one God. Heck, we might be being ruled by Chuck from Supernatural for all we know, you know. It just, but I don't stop anybody else's belief, whatever.
Right. But you also take into consideration that things that would be called miracles are very possible, and they do happen as well.
100%.
Right.
I absolutely believe in that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes. Because I think that's, you know, and that's one of the questions that I like to ask people, because we're all going to be shaped by our upbringing. Okay. I was raised Roman Catholic. I'm still close. It's not like I go every single Sunday, but I'm still close to the church. But I do have a lot of questions like you do as well. But I think that we can look at the world from a very, very spiritual perspective and say there's things here that go on that we really do not know how it happens, but it seems as if it's happening because our thoughts or our prayers have been answered at that particular moment. And that's hard to explain, especially from a scientific point of view. It's hard to explain how you can put that out there into the universe and say, I need help with this. You know, my father's dying or what have you. And somehow, miraculously, that comes to play. You know what I mean? There's something going on here. Again, again, we can be very, very skeptical. We need to be skeptical, especially if we're going to be talking to a lot of people. But I think that when we come from the background that we do and know that very strange things happen that we cannot explain, then the only thing that's left in the basket is the miraculous.
Yes, 100%. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sweetie. I was going to say, I think we've got another whole topic there talking about
absolutely.
supernatural in the religion, and maybe even more specifically about Roman Catholic and supernatural, because there's some underground stuff in the Roman Catholic that they don't like to talk about, but you can't say it's Easter, I believe Jesus rose, but I don't believe in the supernatural. You can't say that.
Right. And that is a great point. That is an excellent topic. I think that we probably should do a show just on beliefs. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's a lot to be said here. So we will say that. But this is a great getting to know you. I mean, look, I already know all this kind of stuff. You know, Gina, what is your favorite color?
Green.
And
I knew that.
There you go. And if you could eat any particular food at the nicest restaurant, what kind of food would you choose?
Crab legs and shrimp.
Perfect.
What about you, Ron? What's your favorite color and your favorite food?
My favorite color, I'm going to have to say blue, but I also like the color of like the ocean in Miami, that kind of teal color. I like that as well too. But I love myself some sushi. I'm a big sushi fan, guys. So I would have to say that would be the two things that I really, really like a lot.
Yeah. Yep. And it's not one solid green. I like all of the greens, like whatever green, hunter's green, pea green.
Real quick, I do also feel the need to mention, since you all were talking about spirituality, I'm an atheist. So I guess I'm the token non-believer there.
But Colin also had a mother that grew up with Southern Baptist and hated it, switched over to Mormonism and tried to shove it down the kids' throats, and force them into it.
That's not why I'm an atheist.
Well, okay, but that was some of the background, and Colin's got a little bit of rebelliousness in him, which I don't know where he gets that from.
So why are you an atheist, Colin?
Just to be completely honest, I don't buy the evidence that has been posited. That's it. I don't buy it. I haven't seen anything to convince me.
That's crazy. Our skeptic thinks that way.
That's right. I find it difficult. And I do. There's members of my family who I love very much who are atheists. You know, my cousin who was an altar boy, and then he moved out to California, and he's now become one of those transfigured atheists. You know, that he now has seen the light on the left coast, and now everything kind of makes sense. But in the world like it is now, it's very easy to say that God does not exist, and I can understand that completely. This is a
I'm
really
not saying he doesn't exist. I'm saying I just don't. I don't believe in God. I'm not saying he doesn't exist. I'm just saying I have not been convinced yet.
right. The good thing about God is, though, Colin, is you don't have to believe in him. You just have to worry whether or not he believes in you.
Right. And Colin and I have had some good discussions on this. It'll probably
Yeah.
come up, I'm sure, that the viewpoints of believing in a God, not believing in a God, or believing there's something, but it's neither one of those.
Mhm.
You know, we've had discussions on that.
Right. Well, you know what? I was a religious study minor in college. I actually thought about the priesthood for a while. So I'm excited to try to get into this. I think that we should have a great conversation on the idea of beliefs and how beliefs have changed over the years. Because as you said before, Stephen, this does impact the world of the paranormal. Whenever we talk about anything related to, you know, fairies or Bigfoot or anything, at the very beginning, it all had a religious element to it. You know, we go through the ages. You know, as an author, that's the way I like to write. I like to write through the ages as it progresses. And there's always been a religious aspect to it, whether it's angels or demons or what have you. I think it's important to have a working knowledge of how religion works. Even if you're a non-believer like Colin, he still was an intelligent enough person to understand the belief system and how that influences the way we think.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, Colin, why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Well, I'm Colin Schneider, also known as the Crypto Kid, a moniker that I'm just going to keep at this point.
Which is good because Ron is the crypto guru.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now
Where we
you
got
might
it.
have to change that when you're 30, but right
Nah,
now,
well,
Hey.
for a while.
I mean, hey, if the Cisco Kid and Billy the Kid can pull it off, I think I can.
Kid Rock is 50.
That's right. Kid Rock. So whenever you go on stage, Colin, you can say, crypto.
Crypto Kid Rock.
Oh my gosh.
All right, go ahead, Colin.
Anyway, I have been involved in the paranormal in one way or another for a decade this year. God, that makes me feel old.
Oh my gosh.
I loved how everyone just rolled their eyes right there. That's why I said
This
it.
sweater that I'm wearing right now is 12 years old, Colin. To put it
Maybe you should just like switch out your sweaters. Maybe that's the bigger problem. But no, I have always been interested in the paranormal. And when I was 11, I started getting a bit more seriously interested in it because my dad, who is in the podcast, Stephen, he gave me a book that was called, oh God, it's a orange cover.
Yeah.
It's got Bigfoot right on the cover, and the title had monsters in it. I don't remember the exact title.
Monsters everywhere?
Monsters Among Us, or no,
Yeah.
that's a different book. Something along those lines. And in it was basically a rundown of the history of Bigfoot, the Yeti, and the Loch Ness Monster. And I was pretty much fascinated from that point on. When I was 13, we went to Maine for vacation, and I got a chance to meet Lauren Coleman, who runs the International Cryptozoology Museum up in Maine, in Portland, Maine. And that was a really cool experience. We spent a few hours at the museum. I got to talk to him a little bit. It was awesome. And from then on, I pretty much was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to figure this stuff out. I want to find something interesting and cool. And from there, I basically started getting in contact with researchers and seeing what I could do. When I was 14, I became the Ohio regional representative for the largest cryptozoology organization in the world, the Center for Fortean Zoology. And I actually, for a while, worked very closely to the director of that organization, John Downs, with what I was working on. He was a great mentor to me. He still is. And couple months later, I wrote my first article about dogmen in Ohio, and it just kind of spiraled from there. I've been all over the country doing lectures. I have been published in like 10 or so different publications. I have been on dozens of podcasts, all kinds of stuff. And it's just been a good time. At this point in my paranormal career, I am the most interested in cryptozoology and historical or scientific, looking at that through a historical or scientific lens. I am the most interested in finding explanations and maybe looking at how it affects history. I'm really into digging into old newspaper archives. And when it comes to cryptozoology, my speciality tends to be carnivore, mystery carnivores, with not the meat eaters, as in the order of Carnivora. So stuff like dogs, cats, mongooses, otters, seals, that type of stuff. That is basically my bread and butter at this point in the field. I also specialize in mystery attacks when it comes to cryptids, because that stuff kind of goes hand in hand, even though it does also kind of branch out into Bigfoot and reptilian creatures as well.
And Colin, what's your favorite color and what do you like to eat at restaurants?
My favorite color is purple, and I've been trying to eat a wider variety of things, but lately I've been really digging pad thai.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good.
That's good. That's a good one.
And also, I don't know if you guys mentioned, but you two, Ron and Colin, used to do a radio show together, and you've each had your own separate radio show, podcast radio shows.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we were like tag team partners. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
We were taking on all comers there for a while. But Colin and I also found out what the world of the paranormal can do as well too. It's just not all butterflies and rainbows, is it there, Colin?
No, it's almost worse than high school. There's more drama.
Well,
Absolutely.
there's another episode right there.
You know what? Another episode there, and you know what, Stephen? And I'm so glad that he told us about the book that you bought, because I would love to have an episode of Colin just kind of vaguely explaining books to see if we can guess them.
Oh,
What book did I buy?
that's great.
It's about this kid, and he kind of begs on the streets of London. You know.
That'd be great. We could do that like a weekly episode, or
That's right. That's right.
segment.
Guess the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, nowadays it'd be superhero comic. Though.
That's right. That's right. It's got this yellow cover to it.
Well, that's just from the cats.
That's right. That's right. Oh no, but you know, that's the whole thing, is that I met Colin really at the same time I was coming into the field and doing talks. So I guess that we've been familiar with each other now for probably, is it about 5 or 6 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say 6, I think.
26, yeah.
2014-ish.
Yeah, and so we have definitely have followed the similar things, and we've been at some really big conferences together, and we've been at some other ones that are, you know, more along the lines of like a town fair type of conferences, but we've had fun along the way.
Smaller ones are always more fun, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
they are. The food's
Definitely.
better. But no, I've had fun, and it's going to be exciting to work with him as well too. But you know what, though, Colin? You know what? So your dad's not going to get off the hook. So we have to get our introductions out. First of all, I will ask him 2 questions.
Okay.
The first question is, if you were on an island, and say that you had to be on this island for, I want to say 6 months, just 6 months, and you could only take 5 albums with you, what would those albums be?
Man, that is so hard because it has changed over the years, but there's still some classic albums that was always on that list. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
The first would probably have to be the New Hope, Star Wars: A New Hope soundtrack.
Okay,
The
gotcha,
deluxe
gotcha.
version with all the alternate cuts. Gotta have
Nice,
that.
nice.
And then, oh man, it gets rough after that because I've been listening to so much different stuff through the years. We'll go with I would probably choose mostly greatest hits at this point, just so
Okay.
I get the stuff. So like the Weird Al greatest hits.
Okay,
You'd
well,
have
we
to get
got
some
2 going.
Weird Al.
So you can
Um,
laugh a little bit on the island, so you don't.
Yes. Yes. Um, and really from there, it almost depends on the day.
Yes.
The classic ones I always had was Led Zeppelin 4 and Robert Plant, Now and Zen.
Oh, yes.
U2, The Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
I'd probably still do Joshua Tree. That's still an album, or better yet, Rattle and Hum. U2, Rattle and Hum. Either or both of those. It's so hard. But like for the past couple weeks, I haven't been able to stop listening to Collective Soul again, which is a
Right.
great group. I love their poppiness and stuff. So
Well, very eclectic, but I think that will get you through. John Williams, really, I mean, the kind of things that he was able to orchestrate for New Hope was beautiful, beautiful music. I think that I would have to bring that along as well too. I think that I would have to do that.
And I would argue that at least a small piece of what helped make the Marvel Cinematic Universe so successful is each of those characters had their own little theme, and you hear it when they come on screen.
Yes.
That's exactly what Williams always did. Now, he didn't invent that. I mean, they were doing that back in the Greek days with the plays. That's where, leitmotif, that's kind of where they got the idea from. But when Marvel, they do it, we watch the stuff now on TV and they play those little themes, that little burst, and it's that character. Even if you couldn't see, you could tell who it was.
Right. Excellent. I love it. And then the other question, of course, is favorite food, dude. Favorite food.
That sucks, Ron, because I can't eat my favorite food as much anymore because I'm getting old.
What was your previous favorite
It's
food?
always been lasagna.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just, like Garfield. That was always my favorite thing. But in general, I'd have to say ice cream even more than that, because when I was younger, every week I'd get a half gallon of ice cream to go watch MacGyver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How do you guys feel on pizza? Are you guys pizza fans?
Yes.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. What I've always wanted to do is I've always wanted to go into small towns where I investigate and try to find the best little pizza place that we could possibly find. So I say, as we go on our little adventures, we can do that and have that as part of a little thing as well too.
I'm looking up pizza places by Beaver Creek right now.
Yeah. That's right. There you go. And it's strange because there was this one place I had to do. It was recorded, a video recorded. It was on some sort of cable access show, and it was in Virginia. And they were saying that, I said, I got to find the best pizza here in Virginia. And they all pointed me to this little pizza shop in West Virginia. And I went there, and I didn't find it amazing, but they found that this was the best pizza around. But I'm on the quest to find the best pizza in the United States, and I think that we should all join together to do that.
That's a great idea.
We actually had a list from a friend of ours a couple years ago, the best pizza place in every county in Ohio.
Oh, nice. So when you were up in Portland, did you go to a place called Otto's Pizza by chance?
That doesn't sound familiar.
I asked Lauren Coleman, I said, where's the best pizza shop around here? And he said, go to Otto's Pizza. I went there, and so far, Otto's Pizza in Portland, Maine is the best pizza I've ever eaten.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so far, so good. So if we get up there to do some investigations up in New England, from Salem to Portland, you're only looking at like 45 minutes. We have to swing up there to Otto's Pizza.
We've got a whole side thing here now, paranormal pizza review.
I think, what, whenever you're investigating.
Oh, I think my phone died.
No, you're still there.
Are you there?
My phone died.
No, I see. Now she's gone.
Down. Yeah, I see. Yeah, well, I was going to say before Gina rudely interrupted me and her phone died, is that paranormal investigators need places to eat.
Yeah.
And you're simply providing them with the outlets where they know there's good food.
Well, people might want to put that up. This got a 5-star from the Paranormal Pizza Review.
Exactly. The Paranormal Pizza Review team has given this 5 stars, so we know that it's good. Let's go, guys.
Here, sweetie. Here, you sit. All right. Well, she's still here.
I'm here, but my phone died.
Her phone died.
All right.
Well,
Does she have a charger?
yeah, you could probably plug it in to keep it running.
Yes, I know.
Too bad you don't have somebody that knows tech a little better to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell about myself a little bit because I think she has stuff she wants to intersperse with. It looks like.
Yeah, that's right. Because
Anyway,
we need to know
okay.
about your background. We need to know about your background as we
Well,
come.
like Colin said, I grew up reading and believing a lot. I mean, I had all the ghost books, and at the time, I didn't know they were cryptids. It was just the Bigfoot and stuff. And I saw all the horror movies because that was as close as you could get the supernatural movies. And I didn't know about Boggy Creek at the time. Even my mother probably kept it from me. And a lot of those books Colin ended up with. So there's always been that belief and that something must be out there. When I grew up, I went into more computers development tech. So that's going to be my aspect of the group is the tech. And I may not have all the tools, but the tools we do have, I want to try and understand them and know how they work and what could make them malfunction or what could set things off, but also maybe ways of using them that haven't or what may make it better. On top of that, I've been working with Raspberry Pi, which is a very small project based computer that you can do things with that we can hopefully over time build our own tech gear to do things that some of the others may not. That's what I'd love to do. Not just a camera that takes a picture, but has the date time stamped on it. So we have another EMF reader and a video and connect all the timestamps easier. And I know some of them out there do that. I just don't see it a lot on the TV shows, and the people I talk to, I don't hear it a lot. But anything we can come up with, I have sensors that I can work with on this Raspberry Pi that can detect temperature and light and a barometer and things like that. We can see what all those are at the same time. They always say, oh, it's getting cold. That's one of my things, I guess, watching all the shows, because Gina and I love to watch the shows. Some of them are good, some are bad, obviously, but I love looking at going, okay, wait a minute. They were just in that hallway with a camera. They saw something. So they got rid of the camera and they pulled out an EVP. Wait, put up the camera, put up the infrared camera, put the EVP and do the smoke. I mean, why are you doing one thing at a time? That doesn't make sense to me. So it's just, I've got some tech thoughts like that. So hopefully that's what
I think that's great. I think that's great because you know what? I've often wondered that stuff myself, and I'm not a tech guy. As a matter of fact, I don't even own a toolbox. But the thing is, though, I think that you need to have that kind of stuff. And that is as important in this field than anybody that has a knowledge of, cryptids or anything. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to be my knowledge that's scrutinized. It's going to be the evidence that's collected and scrutinized. And I think that anytime you have this kind of stuff, this is what you have to bring to the scientific authorities, if you will, to figure out what is going on. That's what has to happen.
That's one of my other big questions, where you always see the video, footage, and people are like, oh, it looks like this, and oh, that could be faked, and oh, this and that. That's simple to fix. If everybody has a camera and they're all looking at the same thing from different angles, and you see that thing moving, that is much harder to fake. Oh, That's another episode I want to do, or at least a video do. Take a clip from a phone and see how easy it is to put something fake into it, how easy or hard it is.
Very cool.
Show people what that is. That's something Colin and I came up with.
Very cool. Very cool. So I think moving forward, and I think that's the other thing too, is because whenever we actually put this out there and people start watching it, I would love to hear what their ideas are as well about the shows they would like to see put on, because a lot of people have great ideas and they're saying, I would love to see a show on this or on that. And, I'm a fan of this stuff as well too, as we all are. And we know that there's a lot of very bad podcasts out there. There's a lot of bad shows out there. And I think that looking from a fan's perspective, I would love to listen to what other people would think, what their opinions are, what they would like to hear and see about.
Yeah, absolutely. Heck, we could do an episode, like if you do a talk or something, maybe we could have 5 or 10 minutes with all of us answering questions, do that for an episode. Or even the people in the audience, tell them afterwards, hey, Steve and Colin are over here and they'd love to talk to you about the paranormal or whatever. And we could interview people just from audiences for a podcast and stuff.
I'm in. This sounds very, very exciting.
If nothing else, I could come up with a million ideas every day.
Right, and that's a good thing. But definitely now, is Gina still not back yet? Is she?
Yeah, she was standing here. I think she went to check on the kids.
All right. But what I was going to say is what is so cool about this is not only the chemistry, but really the different unique backgrounds. It would be great if everybody was on the same. Well, no. Let me. It's not really that interesting when everybody's all on the same page and say we all believe in this and we all believe in that. I like that there's such a diversity here. That's very, very important whenever it comes to this field, because everybody's we're not all on the same page, so to speak. We all have different philosophical backgrounds and different things on what, and even with Gina being able to experience things differently. I think that is really what kind of colors this group, that really there's no other group out there doing this. So I'm excited to be a part of this. And as we go towards the future, I think
I agree.